Welcome back to episode 2 of Filmmaker Reviews, and for those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Ephraim, and I am a filmmaker based in North Carolina, representing with the hat today. I own a production company here, and this YouTube channel is just a fun way for me to create things without a client on the other end. This documentary series, Unseen Maui, is very near and dear to my heart because it's actually what launched my business. I talk about this more in the first episode, so if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to go back and watch. But if you just want to hang out here and watch this is also going to be enjoyable. So without further ado, here is the second episode of the series, Unseen Maui.
Look at the sunrise. The sunrise.
Oh.
So funny enough, the font that I use right here that just said Unseen Maui episode 2, that is actually the font that is my company's logo now. So it's interesting how tied my company is with this series specifically. I mean, it's basically the most beautiful place you could ever watch the sunrise. What you hear in the background, that lady worked for the National Park Service, and every morning she went up there and sang this traditional Hawaiian song that had to do with the House of the Sun, which is what Halekalā means, based on both the sunrise and the sunset. It is amazing up there. So now what you're seeing in this video is a common thing that people do is they'll go to Hawaii, go up to watch the sunrise, and then they'll ride bikes down the Volcano. It's like a 21-mile downhill. You barely have to pedal. It's incredible. And so that's what me and my friend were able to do, because at the time he worked for a company that took people up to the national park. Makena Forest, which you're seeing right now, is one of my favorite places on the island. You wouldn't think that up front, but it looks like North Carolina. When you saw those bike riders and those trees, that's exactly what North Carolina woods looks like. So it was crazy to me that was on the island. And now Valley is another spot on the island. It's actually on the other side of the island where the literal formation, when the island was formed, it created this valley. And now there's water that you're seeing runs through that valley, and that's just rainwater. Any water that you see on Hawaii is just coming from the rain. There's no larger source. And so that is amazing to me, how many flowing water places there are on the island, because that just shows you how much rain areas of that island actually get.
Fresh avocado.
Also, just crazy that is laying on the jungle floor in Valley. I'll stay quiet for this next part. It's probably one of my favorite moments in all 5 of these episodes. So what you're seeing here is a beach party that happens every Sunday, or did when we were there. This guy apparently shows up quite often and does the fire spinning. People had the glowing balls that were spinning. The other guy plays the drums. It's just a very communal thing that happens on that beach. And no, not one person was leading it. It was just basically a picnic in the dark, so to speak. It happened at sunset. Very cool experience.
I seriously lost the keys. How? Oh, they're in the ignition. Are you filming that?
So there you go. There is episode 2 of Unseen Maui. It has a wide range of things from the top of the volcano down to, obviously, this final shot is at sunset at the beach. The next week, when I made the series, I was releasing them basically every week, is also one of my favorites because you'll find out we were able to go snorkeling, which is an incredible experience on Maui. I'm okay. I made it. I slipped, but I made it.
Okay. Up to the waterfall.
As you can see, the second episode is shorter than the first. Even this episode of Filmmaker Reviews is going to be inevitably shorter than the first. But what I wanted to show in this second episode was just being there and having the camera roll. I was able to capture unique moments. So for one, going to that beach party, I didn't even know, honestly, we had no idea what to expect when we went. And so I just filmed some of the people that were doing things. I added in some sound effects with the fire whoosh. Actually, I'll go back real quick just to show. Basically, I was just wanting to make it feel for all of my friends back at home who had never been to Hawaii. I had never been to Hawaii until this trip, to make it somewhat feel like you were there. So like this part of utilizing both slow motion and regular speed, and then here with fire. So as you can see, I've blended both the fast and the slow, and then I think I went and got some sound effects maybe on like Sound Bible or something. I honestly don't know. I might have even gotten it on YouTube just looking up royalty-free fire whooshes. But that really helps bring you into the film and feel like you're there. And another thing that you'll notice as we go through these episodes, there are certain thematic songs that I used throughout every episode to kind of tie it all together and have them have a similar conclusion and feel episodic in that way. Instead of just using brand new music, I would use some new music and then I would bring in some familiar songs. By the time you get to the end of the series, you'll be able to identify some of those songs and how it really tied it all together. Artlist, big fan, not trying to sponsor them right now, but I did just want to make that known that helped bring together this whole series for me, was to have this music that I was able to use throughout. Obviously, there's some GoPro footage in this episode. The next episode, I think, has more GoPro and more drone. The only drone I think that was in this episode, let me go back and show you. Oh yeah, there is some drone here. So the spot here where it's flying through the trees and then coming down on Makena Forest, those are both drone shots. The rainbow, that's also a drone shot. And then this is actually also a drone shot. I wanted to get a higher angle on these bike riders, and I couldn't do that with my camera, so that allowed me to get that high angle, even though I would be very hesitant to fly drones in trees and wooded areas, just in case something happened, especially if it for some reason switches to return to home. It can fly straight up, so if you're underneath branches, you just got to be careful with that. But at the time, like I've said, this was all a huge learning experience for me, to learn exactly what cameras I wanted to use, what angles I wanted to use, how to use. Not that I didn't know how to use slow motion. I had already went to film school and already worked for a production company, but just thinking consciously before. So you usually would not want to do slow motion when it's dark, because that you need to stop down your shutter speed, and you're just going to lose light when you do slow motion of any kind, especially with the A7S Mark II. Now, to its benefit, A7S Mark II and now the A7S Mark III is even better, but they're incredible low light cameras. So you're at least saved somewhat on that. But generally speaking, when I was at that beach party at night, I didn't want to use any slow motion because I'm losing light, and light is very important when there's no light to have on that beach. But with the fire spinning guy, I really thought it was important to be able to get that and use that slow motion. Like, that was just a really cool thing that I planned for as I was filming. I knew exactly how I was going to edit that, and that's another little tidbit. When you're filming, be thinking about how you're going to edit. Not always. You're going to be in the moment a lot of times, but then there's specifically times where it helps to think ahead of, how am I going to edit this together? How can this piece fit with this piece? How can I craft it in a way that's both enjoyable and, depending on what you're making, informative and entertaining? And so that just goes into, as you create more, you'll learn more, and you'll be a better filmmaker in that way. So that's all I got for this episode. Hopefully this was fun and helpful, even just if you're thinking about making some things of your own. This is a great series. I'm not just patting myself on the back on this. I'm not. But if you watch through without my commentary, if you go watch through these episodes, you'll be able to see both the growth that happened and also some of the mistakes I made. There are shots that are going to be overexposed, and I would definitely color things different than I would now, but that's all part of the process, is learning by creating. You can only learn so much by watching YouTube videos, and you can only learn so much by reading books, and you can certainly only learn so much by going to school for something. It gets to a point where you might learn and learn and learn and learn, but there's going to be a wall. And when you hit that wall, the next step is just to start creating. So that's what I encourage you to do. Pick up a camera, pick up your phone, start creating. You're going to learn more that way. We'll see you next time. Wait just a second. I want to say one more thing. If you noticed in this video that I actually look a little bit different in this setup, it has nothing to do with the lighting. I've actually kept the lighting pretty consistent, but it all has to do with the picture profile that I'm actually recording on. So in the first episode, I did it more or less as a test. That was just the straight out of camera Sony color, and that is not log. That has basically no flexibility when you're color grading. You can just add some contrast and change the saturation a little bit. But when I got into the editing, I had obviously already recorded the episode. I didn't want to re-record the whole thing, so I went ahead and just left it as is. But I planned in this episode to go back to my tried and true S-Log2. That's the picture profile that I use for most of my corporate projects, and probably the one that I'll stick with on this channel as well. I just think I have more flexibility to make myself look more natural in the actual color grade. In that first episode, if you'll notice, I put up like a side-by-side. It was a little bit more washed out, and I just had way less flexibility from the look. So this is more tailored to what I think looks good. You might not think it looks good, and YouTube compression might change everything and make it all look the same or drastically different than I planned on it to look. But for me, as I'm editing this, I'm sure that I am enjoying the flexibility with the color here that I didn't get in that first episode. So just for you eagle-eyed viewers, especially those who are getting into filmmaking and color grading can feel like a mountain that you cannot scale. And in some ways that's very true. Just kidding. It's not true at all. But you will learn as you color more, as you edit more, you'll learn what is your style and what you prefer. And with corporate clients, which is interesting for me, I have less and less options to make something have a look, and more I'm just trying to make it look good and look natural. That's what I try to do a lot of the times when I'm doing interview setups or when I'm doing a teleprompter setup. It's to make it look good and natural, not necessarily to have it look like the Dark Knight movies or anything crazy like that. But with log, you have that flexibility. So I just wanted to add in that one little piece. That one thing you might notice from last episode to this episode is that I actually look different. You might be watching this and say, hey, Ephraim, the last video actually looks a lot better. You should just stick to that color correction. And if that's true, let me know in the comments, and maybe I will switch back. But for now, I'm going to do this one in S-Log2 and probably the next few in S-Log2 so that I have more flexibility with the color. Now I'm done. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you on the next one.